Ladies and gentlemen, this is in fact a Manny's Skywatch East, and I am about 7 to 10 kilometers away from Manny's Mountain in Sabang, and that's Manny's Mountain. And this is one of the white sand beaches that you saw the lovely Lucy and I on back in January without the waves, because at that time there was a tropical storm or typhoon, one of the only typhoons that ever hit us here in Palawan. So what I want to point out is I want you to look at this sky. Okay, first of all, the sky was blue 2 hours ago. It's now getting on close to about 10:30 in the morning. Okay, the sky was pure blue, and I took a swim. I swam about 2 kilometers, maybe 2.25 kilometers. And by the time I got out of the water and did a video about a friend of mine that lives here, for a friend of mine, and the sky turned into this wispy stuff up on top. But what didn't happen was that what you're looking at is Manny's Mountain, and on Manny's Mountain are houses and buildings and radio towers. Now, I can see one of the towers from here, but because I know where it is. But you can't, and you can't see any buildings or any nomenclature, geological nomenclature that is normally there on a clear day. And you can't because of this constant haze that's come over the Philippines since I got here, and much more predominant now than in January when I originally came to Palawan. The haze is so predominant that when it's you can see the haze. It actually interferes with seeing things that are only 1 kilometer away, and this is just wrong. Now, it's not chemtrails. This is rainy season, by the way. It's not chemtrails. They're not coming out of a plane. It's being dropped from somewhere or created from much higher altitude. Now, Manny thinks it's 3,000 or 4,000 feet, and Manny can think what he wants. But I, as a pilot and a jet mechanic, licensed A&P jet mechanic, have a little bit better understanding. And that video by the fella that said that allows people to say that the turboprop airplane interfered with the chemtrails from a plane that was flying much higher. In fact, what I believe that is, and a lot of other people believe that was nothing more than the airframe of the airplane changing attitude. And I'll explain it to you so that you don't have all these nasty comments on my YouTube page. Not that I care, but remember, the attitude of the aircraft went up. When that happens, there's a camber on the top of the wing. When that camber changes, when the wing and the air attitude of the airplane is in level flight mode, there's a constant amount of pressure on the bottom of the wing. The pressure is on the bottom of the wing, not the top. On the top of the wing is less pressure than the bottom of the wing. It's called lift, L-I-F-T. An airplane flies partly due to forward thrust, but mostly due to lift. Now, when the camber is just correct, the top of the wing is longer than the bottom of the wing that is flat. But the air comes over the tip of the wing and meets at the trailing edge of the wing at the same time, which means the air has to go faster over the camber from the leading edge to the trailing edge in order to meet the air at the bottom of the trailing edge. If there were 2 molecules of air, this is the bottom molecule and this is the top molecule. and they went over a wing, the bottom one would be straight, but the top one would have to go over a curve. So it would have to cover more distance, which means it would have to go faster to meet at the trailing edge. When that happens, it's called lift. It's like a venturi in a carburetor. The air goes through a specially designed chamber, and the air, when it goes through the carburetor, it goes faster when it goes through this venturi tube, and it sucks the fuel out of the small fuel nozzles built into the carburetor. That's how automobiles in the olden days got their fuel. There were no fuel pumps. It was all worked on venturi. The carburetor sucked the air through, and being that there was a decrease in pressure, the increase in velocity caused a decrease in pressure. Now, digressing back to that Skywatcher that lets people, I think he knows that it's not correct. I think he lets people fly with it, but I think it's not. I don't think that's what the case was. The plane did not go through the chemical discharge from the higher airplane. Didn't happen. As I was saying, digressing back, when the airplane's attitude changed, so to speak, and the plane went up, it created a difference and an increase in pressure on the bottom and a decrease in pressure on top of the wing, which causes lift. So he was climbing. When he caused that lift to occur, he caused more of a decrease in pressure on the top of the wing, and that the decrease in pressure actually sucked the moisture out of the ambient air surface. Okay, so because there was a decrease in pressure, it sucked the moisture out of the air and it accumulated over the top of the wing bay. That's a simple explanation, but that's what happened. So, digressing back to Manny's Mountain, there's no chemtrails, which is how I got off subject there, off topic. There were no chemtrails in the sky today, but everything up there was dropped as lines and dots and dashes from a much higher altitude. Nowhere in the 1960s did I ever see a cloud like that. And I have lived within 100 feet of the water since I was 5 years old. I lived on the ocean or on a canal since I was 20 years old. I lived on the ocean or on a canal in Key Largo, Florida, where there was none of this stuff at all. Nothing. Zero. When I moved there in 1995, and then when I left in 2013, this phenomena that you see before you was a commonplace. So whatever they're doing, they are geoengineering the skies and changing the geoengineering chemically of the skies themselves. So Manny's Mountain, when I first got to the Philippines 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago, 19 months, you would have been able to see it had I been in Palawan at the time. But there are other landmarks that I could see from Cebu when I took the boat, and I was 10 miles off the coast of Cebu, and you could see the city of Cebu. You could see the buildings. You could see the windows. You could see some of the smaller buildings next to it. You could see the smaller hotels. It was just far away. Like when I lived on 95th Street in Howard Beach, I lived in the highest building on the water in Howard Beach. And I had a clear shot to see the World Trade Centers, which was 11 or 12 miles as the crow flies. 19 miles by the Belt Parkway and the Brooklyn Bridge to the World Trade Center, but 11 or 12 miles as the crow flies, and I could see the windows glistening in the sunrise from 11 miles away. And I went to New York a few years ago in 2013 before I moved to the Philippines, and I couldn't see the windows on the Chrysler building, which I went up onto a high structure. Let's just leave it at that. Something that was high enough to see the Chrysler building, high enough to see the Empire State Building from that same 11 or 12-mile distance, and it was not possible to see the windows. All I saw was the same haze. So this geoengineering of the skies, chemtrails, spaceships. Manny thinks these things are spaceships saving the earth. Maybe he's right. He was right about the chemtrails. And I hate to correct Manny because he has a lot of ideas, and a lot of his ideas are pure insanity. But, gotta tell you, some of them are right on. Some of them can't be debunked. Some of them just can't be denied. So, you could say one of two theories. Either the guy's an idiot savant or a genius, or, which he is. I mean, we all are in some degree or another genius. We just don't know it. Or, you could go, as we say in Brooklyn, if you throw enough shit against the wall, something's gonna stick. So, now, as far as the flat earth theory is concerned, okay, I lived in New York, I worked in New York Harbor. I saw a video on Manny's channel saying that you could see the light at the top of the Statue of Liberty, which I've been past more than 1,000 times because I worked for my dad on several different tugboats in and on the East River and the Hudson River and every navigable waterway for every size boat that we ever worked on. I worked on boats my whole life, many of the first years of my life. When I was 14, I was working as a deckhand on my father's boat. It was called the Mamaroneck. It was totally illegal for me to work on that boat at age 14, but my dad was a captain, master captain in the Union, and his friend's name was Stephen H. Leslie, who was the 10th Vice President of the International Union of Operating Engineers. And Steve said, if you want your kid to work on the boat, just put him on the payroll, I'll take care of it. And that's what happened. So I worked on the summer of 1969 whilst they were building the World Trade Center on a tugboat that was 85 feet long, and I don't know the nautical tonnage of it. So, digressing back to the flat earth theory, I remember taking scows out in the ocean. A scow is like a hollow steel barge. And inside the hollow steel, let's say this is the barge, but the barge is round. In the middle of the barge is hollow and is also 18 feet deep, the hollow part. Now when the barge is empty, the barge is out of the water about 26 feet. But then they fill it up with creosoted pylons and old bulkhead material, and this thing is 70 feet wide, 80 feet wide. This is a burning barge, they call it, a burning scow. They fill it up, and it doesn't have the bottom doesn't open up on this one. It's just a bottom. And they fill it up with wood, solid, wall to wall, stem to stern. I think the length of it was 45 meters, 125 feet, 130 feet long, and 70 feet wide. And we would tow it out into the ocean 40 or 50 miles, straight out into the ocean. And then we had a 3-inch high pressure pump that pumped diesel fuel onto the lumber. It could have been a couple of thousand cubic yards of material. because not only was the hull of the barge full, but the barge was full, what they call a heaped load. And the heaped load was 15, 18, 20, 25 feet in the middle of the heap above the deck, or the deck of the barge, the burning barge. It was a specially designed burning barge with for special capacity. It was different than a scow, but it was like a scow, but it didn't have doors that opened on the bottom, because if it did, then water would have leaked in. This one had this was like a boat, but the way the barge, when it was full, it would go down to a 4 to 6 foot water, above the water. It's called freeboard, F-R-E-E-B-O-A-R-D. So it had 4 to 6 feet of freeboard. But I remember being 30, 25, 30 miles out, because it would take 3 days to burn that much timber. I remember being out 25 or 30 miles off New York City, and I remember seeing the Empire State Building and the Statue of Liberty torch. So if we were out there, and that guy was right about the curvature of the earth being, I don't remember what it was, 70 feet, 50 feet, correct me, whatever it was, but we could still see it, then the flat earth theory holds some water, no pun intended. And God day to everybody from Michael Fazio in the Philippines, doing a Manny Skywatch, a flat earth possibility that I'm starting to come around to. Chemtrails in the sky, haze in the sky, and they are inundating us with this haze. In Palawan, it gets worse every day. I haven't been able to see the houses on Manny's Mountain in such a long time, I forgot where they are. And God day to everybody from Michael Fazio in the Philippines, baby. That's right. Oy vey and shalom.